Hey guys, it's Sheena with Crooked Calligraphy, and today I'm super excited to show you how to write on agate slices. So let's dive right in. So here are my preferred tools for writing on agate slices, or tile, or anything really with like a polished, super shiny surface like this. And that's going to be the challenge of writing on agate versus a piece of paper, is you have this beautiful slick surface that behaves differently under your nib, so it'll just be more slippery. So first I like to wipe off the agate slices with some rubbing alcohol sprayed onto a paper towel or a cotton ball or whatever, and that just gets all the oils, anything that's on the surface that might keep the ink from sticking to the surface. So I do that first, and then I like to use acrylic-based inks. So for gold, I prefer Dr. P.H. Martin's iridescent calligraphy colors in copperplate gold, or whatever color you like of this brand. And then for white, Dr. P.H. Martin's bleed proof white. And the reason I like to use acrylic inks is they just adhere better to this glossy surface, and then they don't scratch off as easily at the end when you're done. And I just keep these inks in these smaller half-ounce jars from John Neal Bookseller. Like I do with all my other inks, I find it easier to use them. And finally, the nib that I like to write with is actually this little guy. It's the Browse 66 EF. EF stands for extra fine, and you can see that it's a really tiny looking nib, but it actually has a lot of flex to it. So you can write pretty big with it. You can get really nice big downstrokes and contrasting thin hairlines with this nib. And I don't usually like to use this nib for sort of my everyday writing, but for some reason it just works much better for me on these slick surfaces. So that's what I prefer to use. So now I'm going to walk you through actually writing on one of these guys, and I'm going to choose this nice blue guy here. So first I spray some just regular rubbing alcohol, and I like to keep mine in this little spray bottle that I just got at Daiso for a couple bucks, and I'm just wiping off the surface. It dries really quickly because it's rubbing alcohol, and then you want to be careful to grab the agate slice from the edges like this and not put your fingers directly on it, because that just deposits more oil onto the surface, which you just got off. And then here's my Browse 66 EF nib, and I'm using my Dr. P.H. Martin's copperplate gold. And you just write on here normally, but you want to use a different kind of pressure. So you want to be super light and slow when you're transitioning. So here's what I mean. If you just, may take a little bit to get going on this slick surface, just kind of tap down on your nib until you get a little dot of ink on the end, and then that'll sort of help pull the rest of the ink out from your nib. So if I just write with a normal kind of pressure, you can see, because even though I'm trying to transition from thick to thin, because this surface is so glossy, you just get sort of some pooling down here. So you just need to be a little more delicate and slow with this nib, writing on agate. And one of the great things about agate is, as long as your ink is not dry yet, just wipes clean off, and you can start all over again. So they're actually really wonderful for practicing on, and super fun. All right, so I'm going to be a little more delicate this time. I'm going to write love. All right, so I'm pushing down, but I'm releasing pressure earlier than I would writing on paper. And sometimes it helps to just actually let go and release pressure entirely and pick it up again. Okay. And there you can see that I've gotten a lot better transitions down here. They're nice and thin like they should be, and the ink hasn't sort of pooled. Here on the V, I did get a little bit of pooling down here, but I mean, that's okay. It still looks nice. But as you practice on these, you'll sort of get a feel for really going slow on these transitions and really pulling up, letting pressure up off of the nib as you transition, and that'll give you a much cleaner look. So once you let this acrylic-based ink dry fully, and I have another one here that I did earlier, you can see it's pretty scratch resistant, and that's why you want to use acrylic-based ink. It sticks much better when you're writing in the first place, so thinner water-based inks will just kind of pool and run all over the surface because it's shiny and slick. Acrylic ink tends to be thicker and it just like sticks better. But you can also see that because it's acrylic, it kind of dries to this pretty hardy finish. I mean, if you like really scratch at it, or if you use a sharper surface maybe than your nail, you can sort of take some of this off. So you want to warn anyone that you're making this for to handle these gently. Of course, wrap them in bubble wrap or tissue paper and just like be gentle with them. Because it actually does not work very well to put a finishing spray or like your usual maybe spray sealer or fixative. I've tried it before and it actually just leaves sort of this unpleasant like speckled finish. You can totally see it on the agate. So most calligraphers I know leave their agates unsealed, which is why you want to use the acrylic ink, and then warn people to just treat them a little bit gently. But they last a while if you do treat them well. When you're all done with your agate slices, say you've used them for an event and taken them back, or you've just done your practice on them, and this is, I mean, really one of the most awesome things about writing on these things is you can remove the acrylic ink with just nail polish remover, like an acetone-based nail polish remover. And I'll show you on this guy, which, I mean, I wrote like days ago, so this ink is nice and dry. But the acetone just takes the ink right off. Without, kind of has to dry there, but without harming the surface of the agate. So you can just totally use this guy again. So agates are pretty awesome. I mean, they're gorgeous and they're fun to write on, and you can reuse them and practice your technique for writing on nice, slick surfaces. So hope you liked that tutorial and hope it encourages you to go out and write on all sorts of cool stuff.